structure versus chaos. Structure versus chaos. And how in relationships you can succeed a lot faster. In fact, the fastest and the easiest when you use structure. When you approach relationships like very complex projects. Because relationships are very complex projects. In fact, I say to many people that the relationship creation process is the most complex project you will ever undertake in all of your life. And the challenging thing about relationships is the fact that we don't approach them as complex projects. We approach them as very simple projects. And that's where the division is for the people that succeed with relationships and the people that struggle with relationships for the rest of their lives. I've always approached relationships as one of the most complex projects ever. And I've always loved the complexity of relationships because relationships are also about self-discovery. So when you say, I want relationships, you also, behind the scenes or underneath your desire for relating to others, you want to relate to yourself. But we don't have the feeling of that sensation directly. And instead of that, we have the feeling of the desire for another. So we say, I want to have a relationship with him, and the desire is very strong. But part of the desire is also the fact that you want a closer relationship with yourself. So there is this invitation to personal intimacy when we say, I want to have relationships with others. So there's a lot going on in our desires for relationships that is really beautiful. And part of my contribution to the gay world is the structural approach to relationships. Very structural. As a method, not only for a fastest way for self-discovery, but also a faster way to solve the challenges, and a faster way to connect, and a faster way to get married. It really is the fastest way to succeed in relationships. And I'll give you an example right now. When you look at relationships as a concept, we can translate the process of making it happen into 7 psychological stages. So from the moment you hear someone's voice until he says, I love you, let's get married, there will be 5 to 7 stages that are psychological. These stages have a requirement. If we understand the requirement for those stages, then we can design a social process that honors those requirements. And because it honors and respects those requirements, we now have a wholesome and complete process of bonding, of enmeshing. Some psychologists call this process enmeshing, where you come closer into each other's lives, and the requirements for that are now met. So you don't have to reinvent the whole process by yourself. You have a structure that step by step protects you from the violation of the requirements that are necessary each step of the way. Okay? So this is why structure is really important. It prevents you from making mistakes. So you don't have to understand the whole psychology of the process. The only thing that you have to do is just follow the structure that's designed to respect those requirements. But there's even a more important reason for why structure for relationships is so powerful. And here it is. It's the ability for you to discover your roadblock or your obstacle to relationships. It's fair to say today that most of us grow up in complex family systems. I, as an example, grew up in a narcissistic home. I don't know how many of you lucked out with a beautiful family, or maybe some of you had a one parent as opposed to 2 parents. Most of us, and today, especially the people that are in their 20s and 30s, there's definitely a surge of dysfunctional homes that produce people that later will need psychologists to disentangle the complexities of their growing up. And so we all now can say in an open kind of way that we are negatively impacted by our parents often, and by our experiences when we are dating and meeting men and trying to have relationships with them, and then having breakups, being hurt by them, or having irrational experiences with them, and then not understanding what's going on and having complex emotions, and then fighting and then separating. All of that will contribute to our difficulty to follow a process, to our difficulty to be rational about each other. I'm speaking about this because, given that this is the way it is in society today, okay, we are kind of, hurt by society and our parents, that we can no longer sustain a rational process of dating and connecting. And so structure, in my professional opinion, as a lover of psychology, as a passionate student of psychology, I believe that structure is our savior to our relationship pursuits, because at the very most important moments of the relationship creation process, when we bring structure there, we protect you from you. Yes, we protect you from you. And the structure carries you through the challenging aspects of the connection process. And that's, my friends, how we can turn everything around. You could be the kind of person you've never had successful relationships ever, and you can still succeed as long as you follow the structure. And the moment when you want to deviate from the structure, we know that something is showing up, that you want to do it your way. That's right, you want to do it your way. You think your way is better, and that's where the work comes in. And that's why the structure is so beautiful, because you can see where you want to avoid responsibility, where you want to wait for him, where you don't know how to communicate something that has to have a very specific sensibility of that communication for it to work. Or maybe there is certain emotional intelligence that needed to be upgraded. So if we don't have structure, we will never know where in the process of the connection you're struggling, and we will never be able to correct it. And you will always internalize this as there must be something wrong with you, where it's just a question of a skill. Sometimes it's learning a few sentences of communication, a few patterns of communication that takes about half hour, that can make something that was always a roadblock completely dissolved. But we will never know about this unless you are in this structure, step by step. And remember, it is the deviation from structure that reveals to us our ego trying to take over, to say, okay, no, this doesn't work for me. Oh, this is not my way. Oh, I prefer it differently. And that's when we know, okay, so this is about control for you. Oh, okay, this is about power for you. And now we can really see how some of the deeper aspects of our psychology and the self-sabotaging pattern, they come through and they actually destroy us in the way. So, my friends, I'm really excited about the fact that we can use the structural systems thinking process for the creation of beautiful relationships. Because the relationships need a lot of attention at the beginning, at the very beginning, a lot of protection, a lot of structure, a lot of very specific way of interaction, so that you don't make a mistake and say the wrong thing, or bringing sexual agendas, or avoid to do something that the other person is waiting for you to do. If we create a structured approach, none of that happens. And relationship process becomes like a highway where things are happening faster and faster and faster. And people that usually would have to wait years and years and years for any tiny emotional sensation, all of a sudden are feeling love every 3 weeks with this person, that other person, with someone they are not attracted to. Even with that person, they are noticing friendship. They're noticing sensation of desire to be around the person for whom there's no sexual craving at all. But for some strange reason, there's this desire to do things, to do projects, to start a business, to go travel, to go to some other city, to go hiking or go climb a mountain. Why? Because the structure created some kind of deeper sensation of safety that is so delicate that without that structure could never happen, that parts of your consciousness, parts of your heart can actually open up together. And this wholesome experience of each other is available. And structure, my friends, step-by-step design is what makes this possible. So let me share with you an example of how this works with the Big A Family Social Program. We have 4 stages. The first stage is the bridge, 30 days, very gentle rapport building process. You're not going to be talking about all kinds of complex subject matter. You're not going to talk about hurt and past boyfriends. No, it's going to be very gentle 3 interactions across the span of 30 days, just to open up each other to the process of connection. Very gentle, 30 days, no serious, no complexity, very gentle, very simple. And then after 30 days, we go a little bit deeper. So each step of the way, I joke about it, it's like the plot thickens. On the bridge, the plot doesn't thicken. It's going to be very gentle, very simple. We enter into extension. Now we open up the mind. We open up the connection based on interactions that have nothing to do with your past and his past. So the extensions are interactions that are based on a resource that we share. We share a resource. Both men look at that resource. This could be a book, a summary, an audio summary, or a video. And after watching it, then you talk about it together. The idea here is that you no longer talk to each other about yourselves. You talk about your ideas. And so the extensions take you into a different, almost like world of interactions. And you have 5 to 7 of those extensions. This by itself lasts 5 to 7 months. So this is a long time. So this stage is where you're going to connect on a level of your mind, on a level of your ideas. You will become familiar with each other's ways of thinking, ways of being, ways of looking at the world. And so you will be enmeshing deeper and deeper. Now at this time, you don't have to know, are you going to be each other's lovers, friends, boyfriends, activity partners, travel partners, companions? You don't have to know that. That will reveal itself on its own as you go through these stages. People often force these labels. Oh, you my best friend, or you my lover, or you my friend, or you my this and that or the other. We don't have to do it just yet. Yes, it's important to have it a little bit later, but at this moment, it's just you opening up. You're opening up. It's too early to know where this relationship will end up, and we don't need to corner it yet. We don't need to contain it yet. You're still opening up. You're still like flowers, opening up. And then after extensions, we now bring in the social contracts. And now that's when we have the containment. So we no longer open up, we now containing. And that's where the preferences come in. So the social contracts is specificity. So you've already built rapport, you've already spoken about 5 to 7 different resources and documentaries about art, philosophy, about religions, about all kinds of different intellectual ideas that are part of the extensions. And now you've noticed that, you talk too much, or you don't let me listen, or you show up late sometimes for the call, or a few times you wanted to talk and you were outside and it was noisy and it was very distracting. And so by then you've become familiar with the person, and now it's time to get specific, to say, hey, listen, how about we adjust the ways we interact with each other? How about this, and that? And you use social contracts to do that. And so that way you create a container now. So now, as opposed to going like a flower opening up, now the energies are now becoming a little bit more restrictive, and you are coming closer and closer towards, can you guess where we're going with this? Towards commitment. That's right. So social contracts are all about practice of commitment, practice of behavioral alignment towards the suggestions of the person that you're interacting with. So this is really beautiful. So now, as opposed to being vague, and as opposed to hoping he's going to notice what you want from him, now we are bringing in the labels. Now we are bringing in specificity. Is it going to be a social contract that you're going to create about a friend, about a lover, about a companion, about a travel buddy? What kind of social contract are you going to create? How are you going to specify the container for where you want to go next? And then after that, you can create a new container. And this is actually endless. You can really customize in a very creative science fiction way. You can customize the entire process for yourself for how you get to know anybody and everybody. Obviously, you start with the bridge and the extensions, so there's not much to customize there. But with the social contracts, it's like anything is possible. You can specify any behavior you want. So for example, I can create a social contract titled 30-day commitment practice. And I create this social contract in which I ask this person to do these 5, 10, or 15 things. So social contracts can have 5 behaviors, 10 behaviors, or 15 behaviors. It's up to you to what kind of level of the social contract you create. Obviously, the more behaviors you ask, the more difficult the social contract to fulfill, right? So you start out with the 5 behaviors. So for a 30-day practice of commitment, you ask this person to, say, for example, always be on time, to say, bring lunch with him, or to cook you lunch, or to invite you to dinner once. In the contract, you can specify that you want to go to a picnic. In the social contract, you want to specify that when you have a fight or disagreement, that you'd like to have a specific protocol. So for example, when conflict happens, that you don't walk away from each other, and you have a specific protocol that you activate that resolves the conflict. So I know I'm talking about creative solutions for relationship challenges, but it's really up to you to create your social contract and specify exactly how you want him to behave when he's around you. I just love the whole idea of it because it really drills down to where the problem is today with communication, with relationships. We are afraid to tell each other what we want, right? We're afraid. Yes, we don't have the structure for how you tell me what you want from me and how I tell you what I want from you. That's really the structure that's missing. So people kind of like hope, and by hoping, nobody really gives each other's their needs met. So you see how structure is really the savior for a lot of the complexities that actually hurt us in the process of creating relationships and solidifying them and eventually creating relationships that last a lifetime. So if we don't have structure, a lot of places are invisible most of the time. With social contracts, we break through a lot of ambiguity, blurriness, and absence of clarity. So the ambiguity there causes people to not even feel the desire to commit, because commit to what? Right? In order to commit, you have to know what you're committing to. So you need to define the container, and the social contracts gives you lots of practice to define that container. You can have a social contract for a friend. You can have a social contract for a travel buddy, for a companion, for, I'm joking here, for a fuck buddy, probably not in the Big Family Social Program, but jokingly, you could have a social contract for a fuck buddy. You can specify exactly how it's gonna work and what happens and so on. And with these social contracts, you can now approach the men in the program, in the Big Family Social Program, and then say, listen, these are the contracts that I have available. Just pick and choose which contract you want, and we move forward. And these contracts becomes these beautiful coherence models for how these relationships go to the next level. They're kind of like these structural pillars that you place in a place that previously there was chaos. There was chaos. Now you bring in the structure and the social contracts, and you are landing in the ground, you're placing in the ground like these 10 pillars of structure. And on top of that, you can build a relationship. That's what these social contracts are. They are an amazing acceleration to any human process by way of specificity and structure. And this is where I say this is like science fiction here, because this has never been done in the history of humanity. Nobody has done this before. There are no social contracts out there that have been operationalized, like we have operationalized them here with the Big A Family Social Program. And you can actually check this out by visiting the tutorial page for Big A Family. And to do that, visit the website bigafamily.com/tutorial. And you're going to see the public free tutorials that are available. You can watch and you can see for yourself how social contracts have been operationalized. It takes 5 minutes to create it. It takes 1 second to accept it. And you can initiate and activate social contracts immediately and welcome a person into this science fiction process of relating. This is wild. This is really just amazing. Creativity and adventure as part of the relatedness process, as part of your ability to connect to another human. And then after that, we've got arrangements. Now, for the purpose of brevity, I'm not going to go deeply into the arrangements. Arrangements are actually borrowed from the Hindu tradition. Yes, all of you guys out there who are from India, that's where I borrowed this concept from. Arrangements. So after you have a whole bunch of social contracts, say 3 to 5 social contracts with somebody, what do you think is going to be next? Something that brings you even closer together. Imagine a 6-month commitment. Imagine a 12-month commitment where you actually move in together. So now we're talking about arrangements. Arrangements are commitments that are more ceremonial, that involve somebody else. So there is a third party that's part of that process of the canonical or the canonizing aspect, legitimizing aspect of that relationship, where it's not just you and him, but also a third party, kind of like a priest, kind of like blessing the relationship, entering into this temporary arrangement where you practice the kind of like marriage quality commitment, where you really are going to prove to each other during that time, and this could be 6 months to a year, that this is a serious relationship that will take you towards marriage and a family. And so arrangements is the culmination of the process of all the stages of relatedness, where there is squeeze, a psychological and behavioral squeeze, so that each person can see the other as a trusting, loyal, loving, caring future husband, partner, companion. So now we're getting really into the serious part of the process where the arrangements bring everything together. And by the time you complete your arrangement, you know, is this going to be the love of your life or not? And this is how, step by step, we reveal people to each other with the use of structure. And every step of that process reveals you to you, and where there is work needs to be done, where there is ambiguity that needs to be replaced with clarity, where there is fear that needs to be replaced with courage, where there is avoidance that needs to be replaced with courage and with confidence. So this is, my friends, how we can engineer the process of relatedness from the moment of hearing or seeing each other until saying I love you. This is how we can bring innovation into the dating and relationship world, and we can dissolve a large, significant portion of the obstacles that so far have prevented all of you from opening up to others and creating relationships for the rest of your life. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time, to be able to say to you that after 10 years of practice, of research, of trying out endless approaches to relationships, that today we have the structure that helps most gay men connect, fall in love, and create relationships with each other. And that structure, consisting of 4 steps, bridge, extensions, social contracts, and arrangements, creates a coherent model that helps everybody find their path towards love. Prior to this model, there's chaos. there is just this empty void, or there's a whole bunch of things and an overwhelm. With this structure, there's clarity. There is an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to get better, an opportunity to figure out once and for all how to succeed in relationships as a gay man. And so I've never been more excited in my life than today, because not only I see this possible for you, but I see this possible for me and for everyone in the world. We actually are changing the paradigm for how relationships are created. We are leading the way in the world in the shift of our consciousness, our perspectives at each other and how we come together. The topics that we are talking about today, using structure, applying it to the process of connection, bonding, getting married and falling in love, this is something that is part of the future. Because in this chaotic world today, if we want to rebuild this world, we're going to have to need the structure that brings people together again, because we're going to need each other to rebuild this world. So in this chaotic atmosphere today that we live in today, I have hope and I have energies of possibility I'd like to invite you to. Sometimes we need to struggle. Sometimes we need to suffer to wake up to a better way of coming together. And I think we are there today. It's time for us, all of us, to recognize the need for each other and to take it seriously, because we do need each other on a psychological level, on an emotional level, on a sexual level. We need the community to be there for us, to heal us, to restore us. We need a process that is structural, that takes us to the deeper levels of intimacy. And all of that is already designed and is ready for you today inside the Big Gay Family social program. I've worked on this program with all the members over the past 10 years. And we've put together a structure, we've put together frameworks and tools that will help you connect with men, that will help you create relationships that prior to today was almost impossible. And so I'm inviting you into a new paradigm, a new shift, a new perspective at relationships. I'm inviting you into hope, into the world of possibility of love and marriage again in your life, because today we have everything we always needed and the things that we're missing. And today we can impact the process of relationship creation more strategically, with more precision, kind of like having a microscope that can see more and more and more. Here it's similar. With the structure, we're able to zone in and we're able to see exactly where for most people there are challenges and we can fix them. So, like I said a moment ago, I've never been more excited about the process of creating relationships and teaching it to people, because it's this amazing shift that this kind of thinking is going to produce for all of us. And once this takes root in the gay community, with men, especially with gay men, we can quickly come together in faster ways than you can imagine and in easier ways than ever. There does not have to be frustration, disappointment, trauma, betrayals, breakups all the time. You don't have to live in cycles of all of that. You can remove yourself from that world. You can enter into a different world, a world that is structured, kind of like another world, a world that previously was not available because there was no structure like that. And here in the Big Gay Family Social Program, we pre-build it for you. All you got to do is join us and begin the process and start receiving introductions and connecting to men in that brand new way. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. So please join us at the Big Gay Family Social Program. Visit the website, biggayfamily.com, begin enrollment, and transform the way you meet men. Create relationships that will last a lifetime. Allow yourself to taste a social process that takes you into the future. We have all of that already. Please join us and see it for yourself, and the rest will be history. Okay, my friends, I'm super excited to welcome you in the program. Visit the website, biggayfamily.com. Until we talk later, as always, my friends, love for love, honor for honor. I will fight for you. when you fight for me and each other. And this is our collective social contract. Okay, my friends, I'll be signing off. I'll see you in the next video.